Hi there, I'm Rick Partlow. Welcome back to How to Write Science Fiction That Doesn't Suck. It seems like it's a pattern now, but it's been a while since I recorded. I've had a lot of deadlines. I'm still working on a deadline, but I just got back from LibertyCon and I wanted to talk to you about the importance of conventions. They are not important in just the craft, which is mostly what I talk about, but they are important to keep you inspired to keep writing the craft. So I want to talk today about what conventions you might think about attending. Now, there are several out there. The biggest of them all is Dragon Con. It's held in Atlanta around Labor Day every year. I would not start attending conventions at Dragon Con because it is huge. It is the biggest convention. We're talking 80 to 100,000 people in attendance on some of the days. And if you are not a crowd person, you are probably not going to enjoy yourself. I did not. I mean, I enjoyed the people that I met and the panels I was on and talking to other authors, famous authors like Steve Sterling and Timothy Zahn and people like that. But I did not enjoy being there because I don't like being among that many people. It was constantly crowded. Wherever you walked, everywhere you went, you were constantly bumping up against everybody. And getting a reservation at a restaurant was almost impossible unless you've done it, a long time in advance. So most people ate at the food court in one of the hotels. There's like 4 hotels involved in this. So I don't know if I would start at Dragon Con. I only went because I was nominated for a Dragon Award. That's not likely to happen again because they have changed the awards so that military science fiction is not a category, and trying to compete against the general science fiction authors when you're talking about every science fiction author in the world is a little bit problematic. I don't think I'm going to be able to get nominated for another award since they did away with the military science fiction category. I think they made a huge mistake. If I could talk to the people who arranged Dragon Con, I'd tell them they made a huge mistake, but don't think they really care what I think. I don't write for awards, and it's a good thing because I'm probably not good enough to win any. But that's just an aside that if anybody from Dragon Con's listening, you screwed up. Anyway, I wouldn't start with Dragon Con. That's something you work your way into. Or if you're a people person and you really like huge crowds, I guess that could be one you could consider. They have a lot of really good panels for creators. You get to talk to and interact with a lot of the biggest and best writers in the genre. So that's something you consider. But only if you don't have a problem with huge crowds of people. Another convention I've gone to many, many times is 20 Books to 50K. It's in Las Vegas in November, and it is a convention for and by indie publishers, self-published writers who use hybrid publishing. It's especially designed towards that. And the pluses are that it's not that big. I think 3,000 people, the last one, or just a little less than that. I think the limit that they have set, the ceiling, is 3,000 people. It's not incredibly expensive. It's in Vegas, and Vegas is a flight hub, so you can get there without paying a lot of money. It's also, Vegas is a place people would go anyway, so if you want to have fun, you can do a lot of stuff in Vegas. The downside to 20 Books to 50K is it is mostly aimed at self-publishers, and it is not aimed at the craft side of things for the most part. It's mostly aimed at the marketing side of the equation, I guess, and to some extent, writing efficiently and maximizing your output. It's more along the business end of writing. So if you are going to try to get trad published, or if the business end just doesn't interest you, it's not the place for you. But it is a lot of really good people. I mean, Michael Anderle started it, and Craig Martell is the one who runs it, and he's a great guy. Craig really wants to give back to the community. So, and he does this out of the goodness of his heart, spends a lot of his own money. He's a good guy. So if you want to go to 20 Books to 50K, I'm sure you'll have a good time. And you got to go to the cake machine at the Bally's lobby, because those cakes are excellent. Now, there's a lot of other smaller conventions that I have not been to, but if they're local to you, you might want to give them a try, like FenCon, Gen Con, Fantasy. There's one in Virginia. I can't remember. MarsCon, or is it not? I think that's Baltimore. There's one in Virginia that I can't remember the name too. So if these are local to you, give them a try. There's one in Salt Lake City area. So you can find all kinds of different cons that are local to you. And if you want to start out that way, that's a good place to start, to go to one that's local to you. The one I think I enjoy the most is LibertyCon, which is in Chattanooga. It is in late June every year. A downside to LibertyCon is it sells out very quickly. It's limited to 1,000 people. Used to be 700, now it's 1,000. But they will not go over that, and they sell out quickly. One year they sold out in like 30 minutes. So you have to know when the tickets go on sale, and you have to be online and grab those tickets. And then you have to know when the hotel blocks are up, and you have to grab your hotel room, because those are more limited than the tickets. So LibertyCon is difficult to get tickets to, but if you want to go to a smaller convention that is more geared towards the craft, LibertyCon is the one for you. It's mostly dealing with the craft. It's mostly dealing with the creative side of writing. So I would recommend LibertyCon for anyone, whether they're trad published or indie published. Now, it is geared more towards trad publishing. There's some indie stuff there, but it is a convention that it's not put on by them, but it's dominated by Baen Books, which is a genre trad publisher. And they're good people, and they put out some good books, and they have some great writers, and you get to meet those writers. You can get to talk to and meet Larry Correia, David Weber, John Ringo, Timothy Zahn, Travis Taylor was there. There's a lot of big name writers, and there's a lot of good panels that you can attend there. So I recommend LibertyCon if you can get a ticket, if you can get to Chattanooga, because it's not the biggest airport. A lot of people fly to Atlanta and then drive to Chattanooga, but that has its own challenges, because the Atlanta airport is the busiest in the world, maybe. So getting through the Atlanta airport is a challenge. Driving from Atlanta to Chattanooga is a challenge, because Atlanta traffic is among the worst in the nation. And it's if you fly to Chattanooga, be prepared for a layover somewhere. Be prepared for it to cost more. So just a couple of things to think about. But I do recommend LibertyCon. I think it's a great con to make, like the one you go to every year. And I go to that one. I've started going to that one. I plan to go to it every year. And I go to 20 Books to 50K every year. That may change at some point. I mean, I like it there, but if I'm being honest, I'm kind of getting tired of Vegas. Vegas is not my kind of town. So, I might try going to the cons in Utah, which is probably the closest place to me where I can go to some ones around here that I can drive to. So you should look around where you are, because if you're closer to civilization than I am, there may be one in your local area. I said there's Baltimore, Virginia. I can't remember any in the Midwest, but I'm sure there are some. I think there's one in Oklahoma City or something. I don't keep up with all that because I'm not going to the Midwest for a con. But there are some in Utah. There's obviously some in California, but I'm not going there either. So, but the big cons, the big name cons, Dragon Con, Liberty Con, $20 to $50K. Those are good ones to go to. Like I said, Dragon, if you can take the crowds. There's lots of panels at Dragon. You can see a lot of famous people, actors, producers, directors, comic book artists. They're all there, and there's a lot of cosplay there. So if you like watching people dress up as superheroes and science fiction characters, that's your place. They even have a parade for it. Cost. Let's talk about cost real quick. These are all going to cost you. The actual conventions themselves aren't honestly that expensive. The hotel rooms are reasonable, but you're going to spend money getting to these places. If you go to a local one, that's different. But if you're local to Atlanta, or Chattanooga, but flying to Chattanooga, flying to Atlanta, paying for meals, paying for a rental car if you go that route, that's all going to cost money. You have to decide if that's worth it to you. I think it's worth it to me because I get to recharge my batteries by talking to people in person who are passionate about the same things I'm passionate about. I had a great time this year, not in the panels, not in lectures, but just going out to lunch or dinner or a couple of drinks with people who write science fiction and love science fiction. And I feel like you get to it's not really networking, because a lot of these people aren't going to get me any jobs or make me any money. It's more along the lines of meeting of the minds, of talking to people who love the same things you do and getting inspired and excited again about the craft. LibertyCon is a craft-heavy convention, so there's panels about world building and science fiction, space opera, future weapons, alternate history, time travel, all that. There's panels on how to write any kind of science fiction or fantasy book that you can think of, steampunk, whatever. There's panels on it. So that is a good way to get inspired, to get tips about the craft from people who are professionals, and just to recharge your batteries, to refill the tank. So if you live somewhere where there's a local one and you take a look at that, ask around, see if that convention is geared towards something you need help with. I would recommend going to the conventions and trying to talk to the other professional writers. Now, I would say, this is just a cautionary thing, when you talk to a professional writer, try not to be a pest, because I did see, and I have seen, writers like Larry Correia or David Weber kind of get mobbed by people. Not mobbed, it's not like hundreds of people, but there are just a bunch of others, wannabe writers, just cluster around them and try to ask them questions and try to sometimes get them to endorse or read their books. And they're all very nice people, and I'm sure that they don't mind that. but it's got to be a little bit taxing, and I would feel rude doing that. Your best bet is to try to talk to them in a manner which is more relaxed. Try to get them when there's not a whole bunch of people around them. Say something along the lines of, I'm a big fan of yours. I've been reading you for a long time. You inspired me to get into writing, or you inspired me to do this or that in my writing. And then say, do you have any tips for me? Something like that. Something humble, something non-aggressive, something that doesn't look like you're pitching them a book or asking them for an endorsement or anything. Just say, what tips might you have? Because most of them would be happy to talk to you about the craft and be happy to give you advice. That's why they're there. They're there to interact with other writers, to interact with fans. So that's another thing. Usually in these places, they have tables where you can buy a space and sell your books. Now, I have never done this, mostly because I have to fly in, and it's very difficult to bring enough books with you to make it worthwhile if you're limited to what you can get in your checked luggage. So I have not taken books along and tried to do this. If I live someplace closer where I could drive in a couple 3 hours to a convention, I might give it a shot. But that's not the case. I'm not within a couple of 3 hours of anything, really. Maybe Billings. But that's, unless they have a convention in Billings, I'm not going to be bringing a bunch of books to sign. I will bring a few books with me to give away to people, but I'm not trying to sell any. Okay, so that is my brief thoughts on conventions. I would recommend you find one and give it a shot. Depending on where you are, there may be smaller ones near you. You could see which ones of those interest you and see what their next group of guests is going to be. And you could have a very good time and get some good pointers from other professionals. And I hope I will be doing this more often now. But you know how that goes. Summer is a busy time for me. And this year, I've got a lot of deadlines. So I don't know how often I will get these videos out, but I will try to do it more often. And thank you for listening. If you want to contact me, as always, dutyhonorplanet487@gmail.com. Or you can go to Facebook, to facebook.com/dutyhonorplanet, and contact me, message me through there. Thank you, and I will talk to you next time.